Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope all are doing amazing out there and taking care of yourselves and those that you love. I have been going through emails and messages, and I've been getting a lot more messages and emails that are regarding just questions about not necessarily the topics, but certain like subsections within the topics that have been discussed, or just things revolving around certain issues that are happening in people's lives. And I love that people are sending these questions in, because I didn't exclusively say that you can send questions in as far as just things that will be discussed, but questions, topics, anything that you want to kind of hear or kind of have explain more, or kind of dive into more a bit more, you can send that in any kind of way that you want to send that in. And I've gotten quite a bit of questions revolving just the information that I've been speaking about recently, and a lot that has to do with kind of fine tuning and dealing with life and different life circumstances. But there's a few that kind of went around this theme of just dealing with the problems that we have in life, and kind of how to navigate that in a way that, I guess the sense that I got was a way that eliminates problems from our lives, like how to live a life and go day by day and start to live it to where we just don't have any problems. And I see why there's a desire for that, because problems tend to bring about things for us, like negative emotions for us, or just experiences that we find unpleasant. And that's something that, obviously we don't want in our lives. But as we kind of take a look at what these negative situations actually bring, we have to realize that life without problems isn't something that would actually be the most ideal. So as I was saying before, like we go through our experiences in life, and we have these experiences that are challenging or difficult, or bring us to a place that we don't want to be in. They're problems for us. They're places and things and situations that we just don't want for ourselves in our lives. They make us feel not good. And as I've spoken about before, when we have feelings of something that doesn't feel good, you only feel bad because you know that there's something else that you want. Like the moment that you feel that bad feeling, there is an equal and opposite thing that is more beneficial for you and more in line with what you actually want. It's the exact opposite of it. And as we kind of think about these things and think about the things we want and that we don't want, that's on a scale in itself, like what we want and what we don't want. It's the two ends of a scale. In every situation that we go into, every problem that we face, the problem is the end that we don't want. So on the other end of that scale is what we do want. And as we recognize that everything is on a scale, and it's not just the problem itself, but it's the problem that's allowing you to recognize that you want the solution. Sometimes there are things in our lives that we don't even recognize that we want until we hit a problem in our lives, until we get in that relationship where we're like, oh, this is everything I want in a relationship. And then you get in that type of relationship and you realize, like, wait a minute, there are certain things about this that I thought I wanted, but I actually don't want. There are other things that I want because these are causing problems for me. These are making me feel not good. And when you feel not good, you're recognizing that you want something else. These experiences that we go in our lives, these experiences, whether good or bad, they bring us to this moment now in a different light, in a different understanding, because we've gone through it. Something I was listening to recently, I was listening to a speech from Eckhart Tolle, and I'm not really sure if any of you have heard of him or read The Power of Now. He's the author of Power of Now. So he was speaking with people from Google. It was like a Google type of conference thing, and he was speaking to them about just how to basically grow spiritually in this technological age. And it's something that's, he has a lot of discussions that I think are really beneficial, and kind of speaks in a way that helps people to understand this deeper aspect of life that's very present right here. But he was speaking about just movies and how you can describe any movie in just 3 words. Any movie that's ever been made in 3 words. Something goes wrong. And that's the truth, like any good movie, something goes wrong. Something has to go wrong. Otherwise, it would just be a boring movie. Like, there's always some kind of situation that the protagonist has to overcome. There always has to be something that happens. And throughout that process, throughout that movie, what happens? By the end of the movie, there's some kind of growth, there's some kind of expansion, there's some kind of change that this person has undergone. And as we go through our lives, and as we go through these experiences, negative, positive, or whatever experiences and emotions that we go through, this is the evolution. These are the problems. This is the something that went wrong. that goes in our lives that helps us to expand, helps us to grow, helps us to find those strengths within ourselves to be the hero that we are at the end of the movie. Every moment in our lives, whether we're faced with challenge or bliss, it's a moment that we're incorporating something new into our experience. And as we kind of tune our dial, as I was speaking about before, to that place that we want to feel good, to that station that feels good for us, sometimes the station does go back into that problem state, into that problem station. And as we recognize that, we also have collected within ourselves that tune of where we want to go. You're also holding that tune within yourself. So you're recognizing that that is part of the other end of that scale that you want to move towards. So as we go through these negative experiences through our lives, as we go through these challenges and these problems in our lives, we are also recognizing this radical other place that can bring us so much joy and bliss and understanding if we make the choice to start moving in that direction rather than succumbing to the problems that are right in front of us. It's important that as we go through these situations, as we go through these challenges in our lives, as these problems kind of confront us in these different situations, it's important for us to recognize what's actually happening in that situation. What led up to the feeling of the emotion that's happening now? Because in this time when you're trying to discover what is causing this problem, what's causing this emotion, what's causing this disruption that's within your life, sometimes it's something that happens so suddenly that you don't know how it built up to that point. You don't know where it came from, and it kind of just happens. And that's how life happens sometimes. We kind of come across situations where it seems like it blindsides us. But as we allow ourselves to not fully immerse ourselves in that problem and kind of look at it from an outside perspective and say, okay, what is this? First off, the problem may need to be something that's immediately resolved in this moment. So the resolution of that problem isn't going to come from the stress or the anxiety or the disruption that's happening within yourself in response to that problem. Kind of like I spoke about in the episode before about how if you get in an argument with your partner or in some kind of situation with a relationship, a lot of times that resolution to that problem isn't going to come from that same state of being that you're in when that problem is happening, when that argument is happening. Energies are riled up. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, you're wrong. No, like whatever the situation is, that from that place, there's no resolution that's going to happen. You have to come to a place where you calm down. You kind of look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, I'm calm enough to sit down and really talk about this. The same thing happens with these problems that we go about throughout our days, the problems that kind of just pop up into our lives. Sometimes we have to recognize the problem and acknowledge, okay, I'm feeling stressed out by the situation. Then step back from that for a moment and say, what is it about the situation that's causing me so much stress, so much anxiety, so much of a problem right now in this moment? Because sometimes in the moment that we're in, we can have a problem that's like a work problem that's stressing us out, yet we're at home sitting comfortably on our couch. So it's important to recognize the severity of the problem itself. Because as we kind of recognize that, wait a minute, this problem isn't something that I'm actually dealing with right this very moment. When we can allow ourselves just that brief moment to breathe, that's allowing ourselves to step back a little bit and see the problem from a different angle. The problem's still there. You're not going to just immediately eliminate those emotions just because you recognize the problem's not facing you right now in this moment, but it will give some relief. And as you recognize that relief, you can recognize the problem in the situation and say, okay, so what is the ideal outcome that I want from this? And sometimes we think of an outcome in the sense of a specific thing being done, someone else acting in a way to do certain specific things, or maybe a path or a route for how you're going to get somewhere to be done in a certain way. And that's too specific. That's way too specific and too demanding of things outside of you to go according to what you want it to do. We can't control outside circumstances in a forceful way. Many times we have to kind of go with the flow of how circumstances are coming about, but when we recognize that we have more control over our problems or how we respond to them, then that in itself can allow us to start to dive more into that other perspective or start to move more into that direction that we want to move into. Because right now in this moment, the anger, the frustration, the difficulty that you're feeling right now, you should be thinking that feeling because it's highlighting to you something else that you want. Maybe it's something that you've been dealing with for a while, something that's been perpetuating for a while, and you've been working on it for a while. Still, thank that feeling because you're like, I am so thankful for you for telling me or showing me, allowing me to feel that I'm still in this place that I don't want to be in, or that this situation has more of a pull on me than I had recognized before. And I think when we recognize that something outside of us has more of a pull on us than we want to have it have on us, then that is the beginning of us owning that strength and taking that strength and saying that this is a problem that I'm going to grow from. This is a problem that I'm going to allow me to recognize that this is a signal going in the wrong direction, and it's allowing me to see that I want to go in another direction. So as these problematic situations come up in your life, recognize them and then respond to them. And this is a big part of this because, that response is something that's cognitively done. It's that stepping outside of the situation and saying, what is this? Is this something that's severe? Is this something that is present right now in this very moment? If it's not, then hey, now you've navigated that. It's a little less stressful. Now what's the next? Go through your own pattern, throughout your own mind, through that problem, and work out the situations of how it's something that is leading you in a place that you are asking for in a deeper place. There's a deeper desire that we all have, a deeper want, a deeper knowing that we all have that is kind of pulling us in the direction of where we want to be. And sometimes we don't feel that directly, and we feel the presence of these problems or these difficulties instead. But those problems and difficulties, as I said before, they help us to evolve. They help us to move closer to who we truly are, help us to refine that idea of who we are and what we want to feel in our lives, what we want to do in our lives, who we want to be in our lives. So as you recognize the feeling and you respond to it in a way that is something that is going to be motivating, something that's going to be empowering towards the strength that you have to move you to where you want to go, that's when we can start to shift through these problems and really allow them to help us to grow in life. And, all problems aren't going to be something that's super challenging. As you start to work your strengths and navigate through these problems more and more, you'll start to realize that things aren't as difficult, things aren't as problematic because you're recognizing that either this is a situation that I can solve right now or the situation I can't solve right now. Either way, there's no sense in me stressing about this. There's no sense in me kind of putting more of this strain on myself because it really comes down to these two options. And now there's a lot of other things that come into play that you may have to start to block out, that you may start to have to kind of eliminate in order for you to come down to the realization that it's really only those two options, that either the problem will be solved or it won't. And when you make that your response to the problem, then stress is removed. The problem seems to be less of a problem. But oftentimes what happens is a problem comes up and we react to it. We react to it with anger, with hostility, with stress, with sadness. We react to these situations. And it's not something that's necessarily bad. And it's something that it's just something that happens. Oftentimes when we react to something, it's because we haven't had a lot of chances or a lot of practice responding to that thing. So maybe there are things where you get emotionally riled up and you react to it. That just means that that situation hasn't been something that you've consciously, or maybe you haven't had much practice in trying to respond to it. And instead of it being a reaction to where oftentimes the reactions are things that feel very negative, they feel very bad. Of course you can react with excitement and joy and stuff like that, but oftentimes our reactions are something that's like anger or hostility or sadness, and it's not something that we're consciously kind of manifesting within ourselves. It's an action happens, someone calls you a name, someone doesn't smile back, someone gets into an argument or doesn't treat you the right way, and you feel sad, you feel upset, you feel angry. You're reacting to that situation. You're not responding to that situation, because if you responded, oftentimes the responses that we have are ones that are in tune with what we want. You respond to a question, you want to give the right answer, right? So why would you respond to yourself with the wrong answer? So you can recognize that if you feel bad out of a situation that's happening outside of you, if it's coming towards you and you feel bad out of it, the feeling is instantly feeling bad, and that's a reaction. Because the response that you want to give is a response of love to yourself, a response of understanding to yourself, of not feeling that way. You want to feel good. You want to respond to yourself, and this is what this is coming down to: is it's responding to yourself, not to the external world. It's responding to yourself or reacting to yourself, because these situations are coming to you. And are you going to allow yourself to react and move your body and move your mind and your thoughts into a place of reaction? Or are you going to respond and move your body into a place that you want it to be, or keep your body in a place that you want it to be, keep your mind in a place and with the thoughts that you want it to have, and keep your emotions in a place that you like them to feel good in? That's a response. That's a conscious response in response to something that's coming towards you that may be completely opposite towards what you want. As we start to have these problems in our lives, it's important for us to recognize whether we're responding or we're reacting, because the reactions will lead us to see that, well, shit, this sucks. Things are not going well. I can't believe that just happened. Now, of course, it's not saying that negative things won't happen or not so pleasant things won't start appearing in your life, but it is your response to it. Are you going to say that this situation or this person or this outcome is going to dictate my happiness? Because that's what you're responding to. You're responding to how happy you are wanting to be, how content, how good are you wanting to be. That's what that response is going towards. So are you responding to this outside situation, these people that don't know you as well as you do, these situations that don't know you or aren't maybe in alignment with who you are? Are you going to let these things outside of you dictate your happiness, or are you going to respond to these situations in a way that is conducive towards you? And as we go through this process of understanding whether we're reacting or responding, don't give yourself judgment for the reactions. Just understand that it's just something that you haven't had practice with doing. Everything needs practice. I mean, it's something that's just so necessary. As we're growing up in the world, I mean, like, just as an infant, babies don't pop out and then parents just say, well, start walking. Why aren't you walking yet? Like, it's like we have to have a learning period, and sometimes you stumble and sometimes you fall. Get back up. Try it again, because eventually you will be running. You'll be running, and it'll be like, I can't believe I was stumbling and falling at that point. But you have to give yourself that time, give yourself that practice, give yourself that space and that love to go through the situations, because I'm saying these words, but problems are problems. Problems are things that people are dealing with right now in this situation, right now in this moment, and words can't eliminate those. You have to feel that for yourself. You have to recognize the value that you have within yourself, and you are so valuable. You are so important, and you are so loved. Recognize that within yourself, and know that that's something that is the critical essence of everything in every moment that you move in your life, is that love that you have within yourself. And you may not feel it within yourself, but it's there. It's that voice that is crying out when a situation is unpleasant. It's crying out because it knows that there is something more pleasant. It knows that there's something more pleasant. It knows that you deserve more. It knows that you are valuable, despite everything else outside of you that's telling you, or maybe giving you the impression that that's how you need to feel about yourself. It's false. Respond to that in accordance to who you truly are within yourself. So yeah, that's all I really have with this question. I feel like as I kind of go through this, there are so many other avenues and branches that this can kind of go out into, but I wanted to not really dive into specific problems, because I feel like there's so many other topics that can be kind of covered in, as far as just what those problems are, but just a general overlay of how problems are something that are kind of necessary as we go through this life experience. They help us to determine what we want and what we don't want. I've been through some shit, and we've all been through some really crazy things in our lives, some experiences that maybe we would never want to go through again, like actually like just in this moment. But if we had to go through it again, I know for me personally, if I had to go through everything I went through in order to get to this point right now, then I would be so ready to do it again, because I'm thankful for it. I'm in a place now where, I've been in a dark place before, and I've been in great places before, and I've been in just content places before. I've been in confusion before. I've been in a lot of places before, as we've all been in life. But all of that has led me to this moment right now. And this moment right now, I still feel some confusion. I still feel, all these different things. There's still things that are coming to me, but that's just life. Because all of the life that has happened, all the confusion and pain and sadness, all the stuff that's happened in the past has led me to this moment now. And I recognize the strengths that I have now from that. I recognize the person that I am now because of all of those experiences. And as we kind of sit and recognize the person that we are now because of the experiences that we've gone through, and not just in the pain that we're holding on to, or not into the anxiety and stuff that is a result of that, but the strength that you have. This is often stuff that we don't remind ourselves of, the strength that you have, the perseverance that you have to be here right now. That is something that is so amazing. Hold on to those, remind yourself of those every single day, because it will get you through these next moments. It will get you through these next problems, and value these problems for what they are. They're letting you know about yourself more. You can get into a situation or get into a job that you've never been into before, and you can realize that you love it. You love it. Wow, this random situation, this random job, I didn't even know that this existed, and somehow I stumbled across it, and it feels really good to me. In a deeper place, like a place I can't explain, it feels so good. That is your inner knowing. That's that place of just who you are that is resonating with this situation. And as we go through life, we're going to come across situations where it's going to be very close to that, and we're going to feel very passionate about it, and we're going to feel very far removed from it in other situations. But either way, it's guiding us to the same place. It's guiding us to those situations and those moments of refinement, and realizing that, oh, I do love this. Oh, I don't love that, but I would love this more. We're refining and fine-tuning ourselves, and we're understanding more about who we want to be in this life, and what this life is about. Everything is moving us to the same direction, and is coming about in different forms, and it's truly amazing. But these problems are something that, as we stop seeing them as problems and we see them as growth spurts or growth moments or growing pains, then we can allow them to, we can work with them and allow them to grow us in understanding, grow us in humanity, and grow us in just who we are as people, and our knowledge and our understanding and the truth of who we are. There's just so much that we can gain from these situations that seem so unpleasant, but we have to stop looking at them and fighting against them as something that's an enemy. Now, I'm not saying that you have to kind of move towards pain or kind of keep thriving and kind of trying to find pain and problems in your life. No, not at all. But when these problems come around, notice them, and notice that it's telling you about a different direction that you have the potential to go in. And the answer may not be presented right in front of you, but try to get yourself off the problem, because where you're at in that problem state, that confusion, that pain, that sadness, that's not going to get you in that place of understanding and freedom and peace. You have to try to let go of that problem even for a moment. Step outside of it, as I was saying before. Give yourself 2 minutes to step away from that problem and just breathe and just be. And you may not think that has anything to do with the problem itself. It does. It's clearing your mind. It's clearing that space to allow the answer to come in. Again, I've mentioned this before, sometimes you have a word on the tip of your tongue, you can't remember it. You're trying to remember it, and you're like, maybe I'll think about it later. And then you're cooking dinner later on, and then randomly the word pops into your head. When you see it as a problem, you're on that vibration of it being a problem. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing it as a problem. You're like, I can't find the solution. So you're not going to find the solution. Let go of it for a moment. Allow yourself to breathe and kind of clear the slate of the problem and allow the solution to come in. That's allowing yourself to respond to what this situation is, to what this problem is. That's what that response is. It's clearing that mind and allowing something else to come in. Allowing that truth of who you are to come in, the truth of what you truly want in that situation to be understood. So, yeah, that last part was kind of, I guess, a lot more deeper than the rest of this podcast as far as the episode, but it's all very much in line and very in tune with, I think, what the questions are asking in that respect. So if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything that you'd like to clarify about that, please send those to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join any of the social media pages, everything.sunpodcast on Instagram, Twitter at Every Sun Podcast, and the Facebook group at Every Sun Podcast as well. So, yeah, that's all I got. I love you all, and I will see you next time.